Yo, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for popping into the show. Lake Show Digest. I'm your host, Mateo. As always, got Phil with me today. Um, it's Sunday afternoon right now. Sun's out in LA. It's a pretty nice day. Lakers just got their ass whooped, though. So that kind of prevents us from really taking advantage of this nice day, in my opinion. If your spirits are down with the Lakers, it kind of bleeds into everything. This is the day after the Lakers went to Denver, dropped a 37-point loss, 96 to 133. They were down by as much as 42 at one point. This loss was to a Denver team that didn't have Jamal Murray, Porter Jr., but they didn't need them. They didn't need all-star play from them. Who needs that when you have Bones Highland and Jeff Green? 27 for Highland, 26 for Green. Nikola Jokic didn't even need to play like an MVP. Every team has nights like this, but it's been a season of really rough defeats pretty much every week, it seems. This is the Lakers' third loss in a row. They're now back at 500 at 21-21, seventh in the West. But what makes this one particularly rough is we just blew a road game against the lottery-bound Kings, and the team reportedly had a spirited film session where they went over everything. You want to see them come out and have some more urgency and accountability, play with some energy after that, and that is not what we got in Denver. Instead, we're talking about Bones Highland and the biggest loss deficit of the year. I'm not even going to look that up. I think this is our biggest loss of the year so far, number-wise. But Phil, man, I'm glad you're here with me. We can start with the game. We can start wherever, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. I mean, really, the only thing to be said about that game last night was that the Lakers lost by a lot of points and deserved it.
Deservedly really, so, definitely.
Yeah, that's really as much as you can go into analyzing, because there's a point beyond which just watching film, you don't learn anything from it because the players aren't engaged when the outcome has already been decided to that degree. And it goes back a little bit to what you were saying about Frank, and has the team given up on Frank Vogel, or has he lost the locker room? And I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that when you have consistent effort problems, and body language problems on the court, that is at least in part a coaching issue. So there is some frustration there, whether he's lost the locker room or not, whatever that means, I don't know. But there's clearly tension, and there's clearly, the use of the word spirited to describe that film session implies to me that there was disagreement about either what they were seeing on the film or what the proper adjustment was. And I think that those disagreements might be informing some of the body language issues we're seeing, some of the effort issues that we're seeing. So yeah, it's not a great place for this team to be right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on the sense that these 40-point defeat, there isn't a whole lot of, deep dive, film review you can do and just take everything with total, I don't want to say certainty, but, you can't, you got to take that shit with a grain of salt, because at a certain point, they just stopped trying, man. And also the Nuggets were just on fire from three. They finished the game 57% from three. But, during their runs that they were going on, they were shooting like 60 or 70%. And I don't care if you're the Suns or Warriors, if another team is just hitting threes on you like that, at the clip they were, you're probably going to lose in all likelihood. Once they started raining the threes like that, I just had a bad feeling about that game. Our energy just didn't match theirs, man. They were a young team, Bones Highland, who people were bringing this up on the timeline. Bones Highland, I think, worked out for the Lakers, and the Lakers opted not to pick him. So this is a little bit of a revenge game for him. So, that kind of fueled his run. The crowd was loving the way Naz Reid was defending LeBron. He gets like one stop on him, and the crowd starts going crazy. I'm like, oh, they're going to run with this shit the moment I saw that. It was bad defense as usual, but I really thought, given that we're playing so much small ball, there was a bet for the Lakers to, you can bet the over-under. Are they going to score more than 100? And I was like, oh, they're playing small ball now. Most likely they're going to get over 100. My friend bet the under, and he won some cash on that. We only get 96 points, man. So, I mean, as bad as the defense usually is in losses like this, really everything was bad. The offense was shit too, bro, because we couldn't respond to these crazy runs the Nuggets were going on.
Yeah, and in that sense, even during the losing streak, that has been kind of an anomaly. Since Christmas, the offense has been not just good, the offense has been outstanding. Among the best in the league, if not the best in terms of offensive rating. So that was a little bit of an outlier, and probably, why it really got out of hand. in favor of Denver as opposed to being a more competitive game like some of these other losses have been. But that's the real issue is defensively. Like they can't stop anything. The reason that, you know, I would even be willing to just write some of last night off to it being a hot shooting game for Denver, but they were all wide open. They were all wide open is the thing. And it's like you give professional basketball players and elite athletes time and space to shoot, and they will make it on you. Almost all of them. And that's what was happening. Like people weren't closing out. There was confusion about whether to switch or not, what the coverages were going to be, who was supposed to be where, and it just led to wide open shot after wide open shot. And yeah, if you keep giving NBA players those shots, they're going to make them maybe not at a 70% rate, but at least at a, 40, 45, 50% rate.
Yeah, whenever I see a guy very fucking wide open and then, he's taking his time to fire that off, I'm like, okay, you guys deserve that if it goes in. But in terms of them being wide open, after rewatching the game a bit, I think the first half we were doing an okay job closing out on people. Bones Highland was just hitting these crazy fucking pull-up threes, dude. Jeff Green, I think he was, getting some points in the corner and stuff. But that second half was really when we just gave up and stopped giving a shit. But yeah, I've been hesitant to the idea that Frank has lost the locker room because, the conversations like this have come up and then the Lakers respond with a pretty good win. Things look pretty good.
Obviously, it wasn't very long ago they were on a winning streak and we were feeling pretty good about things. It just happened to be a couple really bad losses in a row. It makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of the winning streak, I actually have the schedule pulled up here. It's just I was looking at like our old wins and stuff. This is us from this year. So there's that good old winning streak we were on. We had a nice little 4 in a row, and I really thought it was going to be 5 against Memphis, dude. But we're on a little 3-game skid now. We had 3 in a row early in the year. Man, I think just the main things, and you've been talking about this a little bit too, wing depth, that's been a big thing. And we're just missing a third of our star power. And this is very similar to the conversation that we had last year about this fucking team. We're missing our stars. Not everything's going to fit right if the stars aren't all there. Except I think we had a little more wing depth last year. Did we? I don't even remember, bro. It's just, bad shit after bad shit when it comes to Lakers.
Well, and we were playing bigger last year, so it didn't matter as much. And that's the thing that is really hitting us this year because Dwight plays very well in specific situations still, but he's not even 2020 Dwight anymore in terms of what he can do and staying out of foul trouble while remaining physical. So we need to accept that. And DeAndre Jordan is a shell of himself on the court. And so when they play big, they're cut apart by the fact that the bigs that they're playing can't keep up with these people or be physical, and they can't switch because the lack of wing depth means that if they're switching someone really small like a Malik Monk or Avery Bradley onto these bigs, which happened that 3 or 4 times last night. I saw they were switching guards onto Jokic when he had the ball in the high post, and it's just their food for him.
First play of the game, I think they got Monk on Jokic. Dwight was guarding him. There was a little motion in the paint, and then they got Monk to switch onto Jokic, and I'm like, well, that happened quickly, but it's gonna be what they're gonna go to all fucking night.
Yeah, and Jokic is too smart of a player, and he's too big for that kind of stuff to work. And then at the same time, if you go small, you're almost exacerbating that problem because you've got a smaller lineup on the court that gives them almost more options to pick from. And the
Who are we going to cook this time? We can cook this small guy. We can cook this small guy.
The only solution to that is having more stronger, bigger, more physical wings who can defend and switch and not be food and let the off-ball scheme do its job, even if they aren't physically a match for guys like Jokic. And you need guys like Ariza to be healthy. Stanley Johnson has been playing better than he had at previous stops when he came in. But I really think that they need one more good wing so that those guys don't have to take primary wing minutes. just to fill that height gap, so it's not so easy to exploit mismatches on the defensive end because it's just happening over and over.
Yeah, speaking of wings and Stanley, why do you think he only got 13 minutes last night? That was kind of a big talking point after the game as well. I think maybe Frank just wanted to give Trevor some reps just because he needs to play catch up. That's kind of how Frank likes to do things as well. But bro, on a game where we're getting cooked on the perimeter so much like that, we need energy. So I was confused as to why we didn't give Stanley more run, in the middle of the game.
I would agree with you there. I also think that Malik Monk needs more minutes, even when he's not playing, at the top of his game defensively, because you can argue, oh, they took him out of the game because of what we were just talking about. He's repeatedly getting cooked on defensive on these switches, but the solution to that isn't taking him out of the game and losing the offensive production that he creates. The solution to that is switching up the defensive coverage so you're not putting him in that position. But that requires a lot of the guys that are still on the floor when Anthony Davis is out, because he is the key to this team's versatility. He has been since he first came here. That versatility and the ability to play big against bigs and small against smalls and not have to pick one to be able to have the best of both worlds. That's what he provides to this team when him and LeBron James are playing together and healthy. And without that, the whole theory of the team and the roster construction doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And we're seeing the consequences of that play out with some of these losses.
It's similar to, what we talked about with the team with a lot last year too. I mean, I've been trying to think.
And when he left the playoff, we thought they were fixing to go 4-1 on the Suns when Anthony Davis got injured. Like we were planning the parade for the repeat after that game. And then he goes out and the theory of the case falls apart. The Phoenix was the better team when he wasn't on the floor. And
yeah, I've been trying to think of like a good metaphor for it. Essentially, I think if you imagine, I'm really big on music. If you imagine, pick a favorite song of yours and then think about what you really like about that song. Think about, it's probably like 1, 2, or 3 parts, maybe the bass, maybe the way that they transition a bridge from one point to the other. Now, look at those like 3 most important things. Now take out one. Is it still your favorite song? Is it still an amazing fucking song? No, it's completely different. It's not what it's supposed to be. Basketball is jazz. That's always the popular metaphor. But that's kind of how this team has been last year and this year with what we're talking about now.
Yeah, it's like taking Flea out of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Like there's no structure underneath to build all that other sound on.
Would LeBron be Anthony and would AD be Flea? I think that'd be a pretty apt comparison. Yeah, just in terms of their contributions and contributing.
No, LeBron is John and Russell Westbrook is Cletus.
Dude,
that's how I'm gonna do that comparison.
Mm-hmm. Fuck, man. Bones Highland got fucking 27 points on us last night. I'm still pissed off about that. Watch him go 1 for 9, man. 8 of 15. I'm gonna be looking at his box score next game for sure. You can count on that.
But he's also like, I hate that he's cooking the Lakers, but he's an easy guy to root for when you watch him play. Like his motor is incredible. He plays hard. He's got an interesting skill set. Like it sucks that he was cooking us, but my inner like Zen basketball fan enjoys watching him play.
The little part of me that even if the little part of me that looks at the player as a person and not just as an opposing player, I could see that. Yeah, when we started talking about the wings, I started looking at the roster here. I'm like, shit, the Nuggets are all wings. That probably contributes to why we got particularly cooked.
And that is, thank you for reminding me, because that was a point that I keep trying to make that I always end up forgetting to make, is that the teams that are really cooking these guys are the ones that are wing heavy. Like Sacramento went out big, and Memphis is just a team full of wings that are really athletic and rangy, and they've got a lot of skills.
Athletic as fuck on the wing. Look at this. Aaron Gordon, Will Barton was even cooking us. I mean, actually, he only had 12. Let me see. I have to move my little screen here. Yeah, he had 12.
And against those rosters, like without Anthony Davis, the way the Lakers roster is put together, if you're playing those teams and Anthony Davis isn't on the floor, the likelihood is you're either going to be too big or too small.
Mm-hmm. That's just the sad truth about it, man. With Malik, making a little more progress as a defender, I am a little more hopeful about our chances to defend, with these. I'm a little more hopeful on our defensive versatility because I think Malik has improved as a defender in this half season that we've seen so far.
Very much so.
It really comes down to AD just getting back, bro. And it's good to hear, in recent reports that he's going to be getting back or they're going to try to get it back at the end of January. But it's still going to be a lot of variables that go into it. So he's got to get his legs under him. He's got to continue to build a dynamic with Russ and LeBron. He has to, try and find his jump shot again. And he has to not get hurt in the process. He has to not get re-injured again. That would cost him more precious time of integrating with the guys. So there's a lot of variables there. And I'm just kind of acknowledging them and obviously hoping for the best. But there are still a lot of variables there. And it just seems so frustrating because we don't have all our guys right there. We don't have all our guys right now, man. It still feels like we got to put this team on ice in terms of, analyzing them and analyzing their potential. Also, we got the trade deadline coming up. So things could change pretty fucking quick if you ask me. But speaking of guys in particular, what do you think of Trevor Ariza so far? So we've seen 9 games from him. I think he's looked a little slow on defense, but after I looked at the numbers, he's actually hitting 50% of his threes. He's at 10 of 20.
Yeah, Trevor has been okay. You definitely are noticing the time lost with the injury and the sickness and all of that. Like he's rusty. He's not in game shape, and that's the thing is you can condition yourself as much as you want, but you're not in game shape until you're playing games against those elite athletes who are trying really hard at their best and are really coming at you and not, taking it a little easy on you because it's practice and you're a teammate or whatever. Like that kind of conditioning only comes with more games. And his shooting started out quite cold and I think has improved recently. So I'm hoping perhaps with his conditioning, maybe getting his legs back under him, those shooting numbers will hold up. But there is definitely room for defensive improvement based on what he's capable of and what we've seen him do in that recent past.
Yeah, just a little tangent. Have you ever heard Trevor Ariza been called Switchblade? Because that's what Black Basketball Reference is saying right now. Usually this is where they put nicknames right here.
All those nicknames that they have on Basketball Reference, maybe like 3 of them I have ever heard used that I've seen in my entire life.
Bro, no one has called Trevor Ariza Switchblade.
I don't know whose job it is to scour people's pasts for these or make them up or whatever, but they work hard. And so shout out to that person.
Shout out to them. They're probably trying to start something. They'll just search him up on Twitter and just be like, this man's like a Switchblade or something like that. Never in my life have I seen Trevor Ariza called Switchblade. I really
trying to make something happen.
What'd you say? Trying to make something happen? Yeah, they're definitely doing that.
Stop trying to make Switchblade happen.
Stop trying to make Switchblade happen. It's not going to happen. Bro, Trevor in 08 and 09, I was just thinking, he was such a hustle guy. He was the guy who got those 2 decisive steals at the beginning of the Nuggets series, games 1 and 2, I think. If only we could get young Trevor in here, dude. He's exactly what this team would fucking need. Obviously not. He's 36 years old and coming off arthroscopic surgery. But yeah, I was just thinking about Trevor, thinking about talking points for today. Young Trevor is exactly what we fucking need, man. Glue guy, wing, uses his length, can get around the perimeter. That would be nice, but it is only a fantasy. So, but yeah, man, Trevor Ariza, I think he's been looking a little slow on defense. I think he should probably, if we're a serious team, I think he's probably got to be at the end of the bench. Honestly, what do you think?
Well, the way that I would like to see this team put together is basically have LeBron playing the center minutes that Anthony Davis is not. Make a move in whatever market you need to, buy out, trade, whatever, for one decent above average 3-and-D wing. have that person take most of the wing minutes, and then you split the remaining wing minutes between Stanley Johnson and Ariza, and maybe Malik Monk if you want to go really small. To me, that's the way to get the best out of this team.
If Trevor isn't going to be that helpful on defense, I'd like to see him come in for like little 10, maybe like 10 minutes a game, where if he can just give his all for those 10 minutes, and if we can set a tone of high energy and he can just keep up with that, that's kind of how I ideally imagine his role. But I think we really need that fucking wingman. Are you in team Jeremy Grant or team Miles Turner for who we should trade for?
Of the two of those, I prefer Grant because I think that he's both the most likely to require the least adjustment of those two based on what the team is doing right now. He could be plugged into a lot of the schematic things that they are wanting to do. And those are the things that will give us the best chance of getting good Russ on any given night.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of split between the two. Jonathan came on and he was talking about Miles Turner, and I low-key became a believer. I don't think
he's a Miles Turner evangelist.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be the worst if we got Turner, man, because Russ can really help him out there with the alley oops. More of a presence in the paint is always good. I think it would provide some really decent relief for AD. The thing is, if we're going to keep Vogel on this year, I think we should go with Miles Turner. Also looking ahead, I've kind of been, this is kind of like a messy thought I have right now, but I'm still in the camp of that they haven't shown me anything to make it look like they're a real contender yet. I'm already kind of looking ahead to next year, thinking about, how does what we're doing now contribute to continuity in the future? Because I don't think we're going to trade Russ this year. I'm not sure if we're going to trade him in the offseason either, because it's just a game of hot potato with him. He's been traded after 3 straight seasons now. I feel like we might be stuck with the cold potato, essentially. So I'm also kind of looking at this year as a lens of, what we're seeing right now, how is that going to build continuity for next year? I know looking ahead to next year is kind of a dangerous game because of LeBron's age, AD's health, and we're probably not going to have Monk back next year. But that's kind of what's been floating in my head as well, too. Are you looking forward to next year at all, or are you kind of just still in this year?
Well, I don't think they're super distinct in terms of the problems that are being faced, because I think the reality is that unless a really sweet deal comes along for someone that hits a sweet spot, that everybody wins. Like, Russ is going to be on this team the rest of this year. He's going to be on this team through next year.
You think so too, huh? Yeah, I think he's staying next year as well.
And so the same set of strategic imperatives that drive how to optimize those big three this year are going to drive how to optimize next year.
Yeah, because we got our first championship with LeBron and AD in their first year, and that's a fucking rarity, honestly. The big three Heat, they took a year to really get their shit together. It was a real, rarity that we were able to get a chip off in the first year. But you bring new stars together, it just takes time to gel. And I think going to next year, assuming we can, fill in the right types of pieces, I think that continuity matters, man. And we haven't had continuity in a long fucking time. Even in our chip year, we didn't have a whole lot of continuity. We were bringing in a whole new team, man. So yeah.
The only thing that I would say that is more likely to get done and they're more capable of doing it in the offseason than they're going to be during this season, because the wing is such a hyper focus. That's where they have to fix during the trade market. Mm-hmm. But I also think that finding a decent value, high energy backup big for Anthony Davis so that they have the option of playing bigger when they want to is another way to put them in that contending tier again going into next year.
I'd like somebody who could bring what JaVale brings, but who's more disciplined, honestly, who isn't going to fuck up as much on defense, but who can still provide some spark to the team. Willy CauleyStein just got waived and he's available. You got any thoughts on him?
The physical tools are the correct ones, but I think he's just too inconsistent in his decision making and his positioning.
Sounds very JaValean to me.
Yeah, I go to bed at night and close my eyes and dream of Nerlens Noel, but that's probably not going to happen.
Fuck, dude. Get me partially aroused here, man. Now I want working so well. Fuck, that'd be so perfect. Just like give us a bouncy, high energy, low mistake big who can kind of just, help Russ and just get him going with some alley oop or some shit,
And protect the rim, because
Protect
without,
the
like
fucking
we
rim.
were saying, with Anthony, like LeBron James is a great rim protector at the wing position. LeBron James is not an elite big rim protector. That's not what he does. That's not how he gets the best out of himself.
Let's just say he doesn't always jump when there's an open paint and someone's going down the paint to slam it home and he's playing.
You need bigs who can do that and be like that intimidatingly large and willing to come up and challenge you on every shot, so that you're not going to get an easy one. Like that has as much of effect in the shots that people choose not to take as it does in terms of affecting the shots that they do.
Mm-hmm. It's about affecting shots. It's not just straight up blocking him all the time, man. In 2020, Dwight Howard gave us some of that, but he's a different player now, man. Dwight is he's not as swift laterally, I'd say.
He lost a bit of step for sure.
He lost. He is not a swift laterally. He doesn't jump as much. We talked about this last time he came on, but he gets hooked a lot when he's going for rebounds. Somebody will just get an arm over him, preventing him from jumping. Refs never call it. Also, he just doesn't jump as much as he used to. I think he got an alley-oop last game, or maybe in the Kings game, and I was like, is that the first alley-oop Dwight's gotten all year? Because that dude never gets up anymore. Yeah.
He's getting older and he's getting a little bit less athletic, and that's, it happens to everyone. Father Time remains undefeated. LeBron might be taking him to overtime, but we know what the outcome of that's going to be in the end,
Mm-hmm. Father Time, aka Bones Highland, pulling up. I think Bones Highland might have been Father Time reincarnated last night, man. Who knew you could name a guy Bones too? I mean, that's the first time I've seen a guy named Bones. But in terms of other things with the team, I think we touched on the main things that are plaguing them. Another thing I've had my eye on, it wasn't a close game last night, but in close games, I'm not always sure I want to have Russ on the floor. I'm okay to have him on the floor when he's playing well. I know he's had some success as on the short roll, or waiting in the dunker spot to get that perfect pass at the right time for a good little lay-in. But I think I'd still rather roll with LeBron, AD, and some guys that can shoot and fucking defend if I have the option. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. Do you think we should always have Russ on the floor no matter what in crunch time?
At the moment, yes, because we need the data to see what is there. Like, Russ is not just a third all-star. He's a $44 million investment. You don't take that guy off the floor unless you know that there's not a way to make it work, because he does have a very exceptional skill set that can still be used. So what I want to see right now is them going into half-court sets late in games and doing what they were doing when Russ has been most successful with the Lakers, which is using him as a screener and someone who can take part in actions attacking a compromised defense. Whether it's on the ball or off the ball, like they really need to keep him moving to counteract that lack of gravity and unlock his skill set without the defense being able to just pack the paint and load up on the other guys.
Mm-hmm. They're really good at packing the paint against Russ now, man. I looked up, just his old MVP highlights to see like what was the floor like for him when he was, getting his big numbers and shit. Man, that shit was so open. I wish we had a floor that open, because every time he drives, bro, it's like 2, maybe 3 guys just ready to stop him there. The league knows what Russ wants. But anyways, back to the point. I kind of agree with you. For right now, would like to get as much data on him as possible, given his investment, given his contract. But yeah, I think if we want to be serious, when AD gets back, if Russ isn't feeling it, man, I think, and this ain't going to happen, he's going to play every crunch time minute possible because he's Russ, because I don't think Frank Vogel's going to bench him. If possible, I would love to see, if he's not playing well, roll with someone else, man. Roll with a more optimized lineup. Roll with a hot hand. That's just my 2 cents on it. Something I'm going to keep an eye on as we go forward.
And one thing I will say in Russ's defense here against that argument is that the thing that this team has lacked more than anything this year has been energy. And that is something that you never have to wonder if Russell Westbrook is going to bring energy to the game. You know that when you come in. And so it's an important building block that even when he's making mistakes, like somebody has to try at some point. And there are times where he's been the only guy or one of the only guys really giving 110% on plays, even if it's not working out or if they're making a mistake.
Yeah. The question is just how does that energy manifest sometimes? Because it can manifest in him throwing the ball away when he's just trying to pick it up, go in for like a drive. That could manifest in a turnover. And that energy doesn't always manifest on the defensive end. You know, he'll fall asleep, off ball, lose his guy. He's been doing it for a long time, and I've seen him do it as a Laker now for half a season. It's still something I'm going to keep having my eye on, but the energy is important, man. And guys like Stanley Johnson need to play for energy for that same reason.
Another thing that I really like about Stanley and Austin Reeves as well is they're guys that are out there that are playing for their NBA lives and a chance to stay in the league for a while, and you can tell that they care.
I know. That's why I love Reeves, and he's been bringing that energy since day one, man. He wasn't hitting his shots last night. I thought, oh, tough game for Reeves from beyond the arc. I think he was like 1 of 5, but he absolutely needs every fucking minute we can give him. If we, I'm just going off the top of the head right now. If we didn't have Russ on the floor, who would we want? LeBron, AD. I think LeBron, AD, Reeves. Those are like my guaranteed 3. But with these guys, Stanley kind of, I don't know about him at the end of games. I would like Ariza, but he has just been kind of fucking slow. Any thoughts on that, Phil?
Well, if you've got, assuming that they don't make any trades.
Yeah, same guys.
If you've got just the roster that we have and they're healthy, I think that if you take Westbrook out, I would rather play this guy along with Westbrook and either Monk or Reeves, but is Kendrick in? Because none, if he is healthy, he plays with energy. He does a lot of the attacking, slashing kind of secondary perimeter guy that tends to thrive around LeBron. And he's had really good shooting numbers. So he can stretch the floor, and he's a willing shooter who's going to have that gravity and not be left open. So I think that's a pretty good, and he's decent, like he's a tenacious on-ball defender. I don't know much about his off-ball. I haven't seen a lot of numbers on that or watched any film, but on-ball, his defense looks pretty good.
Yeah. We're waiting for the day for him to show up, man. I'd love to see him, finally get some minutes, bro. But I think that about wraps it up for what I got to say. You got anything else?
No, just to everyone out there, like, take it easy, relax. Even with everything, like, as one thing that I keep going back to, as bad as this team has been, and there have been moments where it has felt almost as bad as, some of the worst of the tanking years. But even as bad as it has been, this is a 500 basketball team. And, there are a lot of worse basketball teams in the NBA. And so it could always be worse. It might get better. We're just going to have to wait and see how the chips fall, because I think this roster, except for maybe, a move for a wing or one move to ship a couple bench guys out for some wing depth, this is the roster we have. That's who we got to run with. So try to make the best of it.
I like that. It could always be worse. It might get better. I think the Lakers should officially announce that as the slogan of the team, because that kind of sums up every fucking game. It could be worse. It might get better. Let's hope, right?
Right.
I agree, man. Great having you on as always, and we'll talk again soon. Take it easy, dude.
Thanks, man.
Later.